We're only a few days into 2025, but I'm sure you've seen so many New Year resolutions video by now, or even feel a bit scared to click on them. Although most of these videos focus on self-development, which I do agree that it's healthy to reasonable amount, it can also trigger this feeling that we're not where we're supposed to be. I want to make this video for those who constantly feel like the next goal that we set must be bigger and more impressive than the last, myself included, to remind ourselves that it's okay when things slow down. Some of us may have a slower year last year, and we feel like we need to ramp it up for 2025. And you may feel anxious about things seemingly staying the same or not changing as fast as you may want. But what if I tell you that not experiencing constant changes doesn't mean being stagnant? My name is Nguyet, and I want to share something a bit personal with you. It's a mindset that I've been really struggling and trying to let go for years. I want to share my story of how I constantly feel like I need to push hard to quote unquote not fall behind, which is a feeling that I think you may also relate to if you also feel worried sometimes when things seem to slow down. I also want to invite you to think about your assumptions with productivity and rest, because I think the remedy for this anxious feeling when things don't seem to move as fast will require a personal touch from you. So even when I offer a few questions to ask yourself, feel free to just take whatever resonates with you, okay? So, in the past few years of living abroad, I feel like my life has been one full of changes. I was always in anticipation and in preparation of what's next. I have lived in one city for 4 years, but I have moved to different places in that city for probably 4 to 6 times. And then in early 2024, I moved to Toronto and started my life here again. All of these changes push me to learn and adapt quickly, but at the cost of not being able to really grasp the value of slowing down until last year. I was in a new city, but I have visited Toronto at least 10 times before, so I kind of knew my way around. And I also started a new job where I feel like my colleagues really respect work life balance. I've also lived in Canada long enough to feel like I can finally be myself here. So on paper, things were pretty good, especially if I compare it to my benchmark in 2023 when was feeling so lost with job searching, and when I compare it to my previous years in Canada when I haven't found my footing here yet. But throughout 2024, I kept having this nagging feeling that this is not real, and I kept sending myself down to many stupid spirals. I'm sure that if you've been through constant changes before, whether big or small, it can feel terrifying sometimes to slow down because we feel afraid that the peace that we have is momentary. But does no change really mean stagnation? Do we really get complacent when we rest? The spoiler alert is not really. Because when we have these moments of downtime, I think that's when we actually have the bandwidth to be there for ourselves, to be there for other people, to laugh genuinely, and to be silly. And these are the necessary moments to help us figure out what really matters to ourselves. I got really inspired to explore my fucked up idea about productivity and rest when listening to the podcast The Happiness Lab by Dr. Laurie Santos. And it's a podcast that's about what makes us actually feel fulfilled in life, and also explore this question of why we feel so stressed and rushed in our daily lives. When listening to some episodes on boredom, perfectionism, and feeling not good enough, I was introduced to this term called productivity debt. It's this ominous feeling that some of us wake up with an imaginary to-do list in our head that we feel like we need to check off by the end of the day. We feel like we need to do tasks not just because we need to, but also because we feel like being productive will help us pay this imaginary debt of proving ourselves and proving to others that we are worthy of existence. Otherwise, if we quote unquote do nothing or do something that we think is unproductive, we may not feel good enough. There's this parallel dilemma to this productivity debt is that a lot of us want to spend less time on meaningless tasks, but when we actually do have time, we dread this idea of being bored and doing nothing, when boredom is actually pretty good for being creative or reflections or solving a problem that's been in the back of our mind. Like, think about the times that you have those random shower thoughts. So when I was listening to these podcast episodes, I feel both so call out and so seen. I think that a lot of us also live life with the assumptions that the more that we're able to do things and do them well, it will protect what is deeply important to us. It will help us protect ourselves, our financial security, our family, safety, which totally makes sense, especially if we face something unexpected. So the result is we end up chasing more things and over optimize our time. But I really, really, really urge you to just test out your assumptions. Test out your assumptions about productivity, boredom, and rest by doing the very opposite, by doing less. Okay, so if your first thought is, my calendar is already so packed, how do I even find the time to rest? Then I really, really know this feeling. And I also don't want you to completely change up your calendar. Rather, I mean to just try doing less for one activity and ask for help when needed. It also doesn't even need to be work related. You can even just do it once and do it for yourself. Some examples would be, instead of cooking up everything from start to finish when you invite other people over, how about making it into a potluck so that you have each person contribute a small dish? Instead of going to a cafe with your laptop and work the entire time, how about just dedicate the last 15 minutes to read at the coffee shop like you've always wanted to? Instead of always being the planner for hangouts, how about ask people to come up with some ideas by the end of the week and then decide on what others have suggested? Now, these little experiments don't mean to completely ignore or throw away of the responsibilities and work that you have, but they're there for you to find evidence about what you think and how you feel when you do less and slow down. So it's for yourself, it's very personal. Also, don't expect to fully shut off when you try this out for yourself. It's only normal if you feel uneasy or you feel like your mind keep nagging you about a thing that you need to do if you are not used to slowing down. You can gently tell it that, okay, I will come back to the task later, but this is the time to do less. I have a few questions for you to start with if you want to try this out. Okay, so number one, what's one thing that I've been overly critical about myself? How fair is that assessment? Two, how can I do less or pull away from that thing for a little bit, even just once? And number three, how did I expect myself to feel when I do less compared to when I actually experience it? For example, for me, when I try this out for myself, one thing that I've been critical of is actually YouTube. I'm especially hard on myself about how long it takes for me to produce a video right now, even though it makes sense because I'm just at the beginning stage of figuring this out, and I also want to give a very clear and thoughtful message in each video. But I try to do less by knowing that on some weeknights, instead of using my free time after work to work on YouTube, I can just watch K-dramas or watch something with subtitles specifically so that I actually need to read it and pay attention to the show, or just cooking something for a long time without a clear agenda. Sometimes I do feel like I'm not disciplined enough, that I feel like I need to find a better system to create. So when these thoughts creep into my mind, I try to remind myself that it's okay. I will come back to this task later, but this is not the time for it. And oftentimes I realize that when I just let my brain just chill out a little, it gives me the time to notice and appreciate different things in my life. And this is really random, but something I notice is that how much I appreciate my humidifier. It has really helped me with my dry nose and dry skin in the winter. And I think it's these moments of just whimsical and just being silly, of having no clear agenda, that it really helps me to feel more refreshed and coming back to work later on. And these doses of breaks actually help me with this creative block when trying to plan for this video. I want to end this video by get us thinking about this common phrase: get out of your comfort zone, because that's where growth happens. While this idea of putting ourselves in new and challenging situations makes sense, it also really begs this question: what is the comfort zone, and why do we assume that it's so bad to stay there? The comfort zone is basically the state where you feel safe and in control. You know your surroundings, you're confident in your abilities, and it's this space where you feel like things are manageable. We probably are pretty familiar with this definition, and I do agree that being too comfortable sometimes can really hold us back from experiencing new things when we feel like there is little stimulation or incentives to change, or when we feel afraid of a new situation. I think in that case, some doses of change is definitely welcomed. However, if you are used to things moving fast all the time, that the thought of being in the comfort zone makes you feel like you're doing something wrong, then I want to offer you something to consider. Remember that the comfort zone doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's a result of all of your years of experience, the skills that you have developed, the challenges that you have overcome, and also the dreams that you have grown into and grown out of those growing pains that you've trying to do all these years. So I think that it's okay to appreciate and enjoy that space. I think that it's necessary to learn our strengths and areas that we want to improve on to guide where we want to go next. And I think we should try new things and expand our comfort zone instead of abandoning it entirely each time there is a new goal to achieve. Because the comfort zone, the comfort people, and the comfort places that we have discovered are so essential when it comes to feel recharged and also just appreciate the good things in our lives instead of constantly chasing what's next. Also, your next goal doesn't need to be more impressive or bigger than the last. As long as they genuine to you and bring a positive impact to you and other people, then I think it's already a goal worth pursuing and needs no justifications. I really hope that this video brings you some comfort to help you take it at your own pace and not feel too scared when things slow down, because that's actually the space for us to reflect on what we have already achieved to shape where we want to go next. And hopefully you get to pursue some goals that are meaningful to you this year. I hope to see you again very, very soon. Take care. Bye.